You're watching The World with me, Charles Eniagolu. Pope Francis lies in state in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome for the last day today. His coffin will be closed tonight ahead of the funeral on Saturday. More than 100 foreign delegations, including heads of state and royalty, have begun arriving in Rome ahead of the funeral of Pope Francis on Saturday. There's also a last chance for huge crowds of mourners to file past the Pope's coffin to pay their respects as he lies in state. There's been an extra surge of people from all over the world braving the long hours of waiting to enter the Basilica to file past the coffin. More than 150,000 people have so far viewed his body. Correspondents say it underscores the importance of the moment.
Today we have a lot of pilgrims, let's say, and we have divided them up nicely between the two entrances. Anyway, the queue is flowing quite well for the moment. I think everything is going well, I hope. I am glad that there is all this participation. No, I'm not afraid. We have a good team around here that controls everything, so we feel quite comfortable.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from London by the journalist Caroline Farrow, who was a member of the organisation Catholic Voices and is a regular commentator on the Catholic faith in public life. She's also the UK and Ireland campaign director at Citizen Go. Thank you very much indeed, Caroline. Great to see you again. Let's start with the surge of people still waiting to enter the Basilica to file past the Pope's coffin. What does it mean to them, especially the Catholics, to be able to be there to see the body of the Holy Father?
Well, I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and all popes are very, when you're a Catholic, you're in communion with the Pope. So, the Holy Father has great significance to Catholics, and they want to pay their last respects and to say thank you, goodbye, and also to pray for him and to pray for his soul. So, I think it's a moment of incredible significance. I'm very envious, actually. I wish I could be there myself.
Indeed, and looking around and hearing the voices of from St. Peter's Square, I mean, it feels and looks as if people from every part of the world are there, including people from different religions.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that speaks to the enduring appeal that Pope Francis had. We're going to see this reflected in his funeral rite, but we're going to see prayers not only in English and Latin, but and Italian, no doubt, but also in Mandarin, speaking to his desire to evangelize to the whole world. And of course, although Francis took his papal name from St. Francis of Assisi, he also bore in mind Francis was a Jesuit, and there was another Jesuit saint called St. Francis Xavier, who did a lot of evangelization to the, he was a missionary to the East. So, that sort of speaks to Francis' papacy and the fact that, he did want to welcome people on the peripheries. And, he famously washed the feet of Muslim prisoners one Maundy Thursday, I think about 10 years ago now. So it's not really surprising, but I think as well, this is a moment in history. A papal death doesn't occur every day of the week. It's not a common occurrence. And so people really want to take the opportunity to be there and be part of something, to be part of history, as well as, to pray and to be part of that spiritual communion with the Pope.
And of course, the place of women, very important in the evolving modern Catholic Church. How much did Francis champion the cause of women in the hierarchy of the Church?
Well, he was a great reformer in that respect. He appointed more women to senior positions in the Vatican, to senior lay positions than certainly any other pope. And he was very, very keen to advance the cause of women. And he often talked about women in his homilies. He talked about how women were actually the first witnesses to the resurrection, and it is the role of women to spread the news and evangelize. So, and Francis was, although he was from Argentina, his parents were both Italian, so he had that sort of European upbringing, displaced into Argentina, and there's this great sort of love of women and of mothers and of the family, and that's reflected in his choice of burial as well. He's going to be buried at St Mary Major Basilica, another break with tradition, which is outside the Vatican walls, and that is one of the reasons for that is because it's noted for its great devotion to the Virgin Mary. It's got a particular icon, a Byzantine icon, that's actually attributed to St Luke the Evangelist. And Francis made over 125 visits to pray before this icon of the Virgin Mary. And so I think that all speaks to the great love and respect and in which he held women, and although yes, he was very firm and he's closed the doors on the idea of female ordination, certainly both to the priesthood and the diaconate, he's trying to show that women do have a role to play within the Catholic Church.
And I mean, we've heard quite a few people saying they're worried about who the next pope will be and whether he'll be as close to the people as Francis. I mean, is there much concern about that in the Catholic world?
No, I really don't think so. I mean, trying to predict who the next pope is a bit of a mug's game, because what we know, or what past conclaves have shown us, is that the process can be unpredictable, and very often you get a dark horse. So both in the cases of Francis' election and also the Pope before him, two popes before him, St John Paul II, they were both candidates that weren't expected. But certainly, of all the candidates that have been mooted and mentioned, I think they're all good, holy men, and I don't think the concern is about whether or not the next pope will be close to the people, but it's whether or not the next pope sort of carries on in Francis' vein in terms of being. Francis was seen as being a great liberalizer, or whether or not we have a more conservative candidate.
And of course, we talked earlier about the surge of people around St. Peter's Basilica to view his body. Beyond sort of ordinary people, delegations from more than 100 countries, including heads of state and royalty, expected at the funeral tomorrow. That underscores the importance and the pride of place that's given to Catholic pontiffs, doesn't it?
Well, yes, of course, because not only is the Pope a great spiritual leader, there's over 2 billion Catholics in the world, but the Vatican is also a state. So he was a head of state. And, one of the things that's often, I think, not talked about very much is the great diplomacy that the Vatican engages in. We saw this over 10 years ago when we had the WikiLeaks, and we saw how much the Catholic Church is involved in behind-the-scenes diplomacy, in peacemaking, in all of the major conflicts in the world. So, of course, various heads of state are going to come to the funeral, to pay their respects, and because Francis and whoever the Pope is a great. Is one of our modern leaders. People don't want to acknowledge that because they think that religion and politics should be kept separate. But it's very clear, the esteem for which world leaders held, in which they held the Pope. We had King Charles and Queen Camilla visit Pope Francis just a matter of weeks ago. We have. I think Donald Trump has met with the Pope, and recently, just shortly before he died, the Vice President J.D. Vance. Now, if the Pope had no influence, you wouldn't have all these world leaders lining up to meet him.
Caroline, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate the time you've taken to talk to us. Caroline Farrow is a journalist who was a member of the organisation Catholic Voices, is a regular commentator on the Catholic faith in public life. She's also the UK and Ireland campaign director at Citizen Go, and she was talking to me on the line from London.